I've been doing well. Yeah.
We have everyone. Okay, you're all set. Yep.
Call the meeting of the Meridian Township Planning Commission, regular meeting of March 11th, 2024 to order. Start with roll call. Commissioner Scales.
Present.
Commissioner Bloomer.
Present.
Commissioner McCurtis.
Present.
Commissioner McConnell.
Present.
Commissioner Brooks.
Here.
And we had heard that Commissioner Snyder would not be here tonight, and Chair Commissioner Shrewsbury is here. Okay. Next on the agenda is public remarks. We do not have any public hearings today, so this would be public remarks on any item on the agenda. See, there is nobody here wishing to give public remarks, so we'll move on to approval of the agenda. I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
All right. Moved by Commissioner Bloomer and supported by Commissioner Scales. The agenda for today, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Any opposed? All right, and then next on the agenda is approval of minutes. Would somebody like to move approval with?
Before you get into that, I was out of town Thursday afternoon, Friday, and Commissioner Scales was nice enough to email me while I was out and let me know that there was the copy and paste demons got to the minutes and it went out with a little bit less diligency than normal from my desk, and I apologize for that. So what I have in front of you is just the highlighted resolution under item 8 that now correctly states that it was the resolution to approve the drive-through. And up above that, the dates were incorrect in the minutes that were in your packet. So those have been corrected as well. That was the February 12th meeting.
Okay.
So again, I apologize. That normally wouldn't happen, but things got rushed, and like I said, I was out of town. It was a funeral. I couldn't help it.
Got it. Thank you.
And then whatever else you want, we'll get the right minutes
Okay.
up on the website.
Would somebody like to move approval of the minutes with at least those noted corrections, and then we can talk about anything else that might need to be done?
I move to approve the minutes with those noted corrections.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Brooks, supported by Commissioner McConnell. I noticed and I emailed Brian about a couple of just minor typos.
Sure.
On page 2 and page 3. Nothing that affects substance of the minutes. Does anybody else have anything else you'd like to?
Was one of them the applicant?
Yes.
Thank you.
The applicant. Well.
Anybody else have anything else? All right.
If I've got those corrections on my email, I'll make them tomorrow. No problem.
Wonderful. Thank you. The other one, just so that it's on the record, I guess, is the spelling of Namoka. I think in one spot it was with an A, and I just want to make sure that's,
What's the other one?
okay, you got it?
Okay.
Okay. So little stuff, nothing big. Okay.
No problem.
All in favor of approving the minutes as with the noted corrections, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved as corrected. Any communications that have come in since the agenda packet was shared?
There are none.
Okay, thank you. We have no public hearings today, and it looks like item 8, we have no unfinished business. So we are on to other business. Item 9A, 2024 work plan discussion. Mr. Short, take it away.
Okay. So.
Oh. Okay.
last week, you asked me to do a little bit of research into what overlaps. I am telling you, we're going to be discussing the Village of Namoka in a moment, and we're going to do something with that. I also know that behind the scenes, we're working on the off-street parking regulations, including parking counts, maximum, minimum numbers, things like that. So that work has already begun. The landscape ordinance update, I did confirm that does kind of overlap with environmental commission goals. That's one of the things you asked me to look into. And whatever else on that list you want to work on this year, we'll start bringing you stuff in the next month or two on various topics. So if you want to prioritize these, if you want to pick your two favorites, however you want to handle it, we're good to go.
Any discussion, comments?
Sure, this looks great. You said you're already looking into some of the parking stuff. Is that mainly in relation to sort of standards across other similar communities, or is there also are you able to do an analysis of sort of current parking occupancy rates, or is that outside the scope of what you're currently doing?
We're not looking at what's actually on the ground now. That might be a step in the future. What we're looking now is what is two different things. What are other communities doing, and what is emerging as maybe best practices for things. And in a lot of the numbers, a lot of the minimums are being adjusted accordingly.
And you already have a pretty good sense of what's overbuilt for parking currently.
Oh, yeah. Especially from the large lot, the large commercial side of things, yes. But that, I want to stress, that's not the only part of the parking ordinance there is. That's the part that comes up in conversation the most, but bike parking, other, even some of the sizes, there's a lot of sections to it. I will note, it's probably good to pick up the landscape ordinance, because not only will that overlap with the Environmental Commission's potential work, it overlaps with some of the landscaping stuff in the parking regulations anyway. So we'd be killing a bird and a half with two stones. One stone, sorry.
All right, Commissioner Scales?
What are you doing in reference to ADA access?
That came up in conversation last week. We're not doing anything with it unless you want us to start looking into it. And it was Commissioner Snyder that brought it up. I don't know specifically what the question is. I know that we look at ADA access when we get a site plan. We look at, there's a minimum number of accessible parking spots that have to be shown on the site plans. A certain number of those, if it reaches a certain number, some of those have to be van accessible. We look at sidewalks and, minimum regulations for ADA access for our sidewalks. If there's something above and beyond that, I don't know where that conversation was intended to go. I only reported what was brought up in conversation.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner Bloomer, did you have a question, or were you just smiling at me to help me move forward? Anyone else have anything that they'd like to ask questions on? Clarity?
I have a comment.
Commissioner Brooks?
I think it makes sense, actually, now that you brought up the landscape ordinance in relation to the parking ordinance. I actually think the ADA access makes sense. It's sort of like a triangulation of three issues that relate to how do people access, and what is the design of that access to our properties in the township. And so the parking is one level, but then also the ADA access is related to that. And then in addition, the landscape is what's sort of containing all of those things. I don't know if that's too much
No.
to work on at the same time. It just seems like that it would be reasonable to adjust those three things in one swoop. I also am hesitant, now that I'm thinking about this out loud, is like, it's also like, I wouldn't want to create ordinance burden on development. But I do think these things would, the triangulation of those three things meet a lot of our strategic objectives that we're trying to work towards.
I would suggest that if you want me to look into ADA access, what I would probably start doing is looking at what is the, best practices now since our ordinances have been created, make sure we're up to date. And if we find deficiencies, we can bring those to you certainly. If I find something new and inventive, and planning world does do that from time to time, I can bring it to you. I'm not trying to, but it does. So I think it's worth looking into, just to make sure that we're not missing something. And I see how that does tie to parking. I just got done saying we have parking regulations that yeah.
They do that too.
Yeah, a certain number of spots. So there is some overlap there. Landscaping, I don't think that's a bad thing to go into either.
Does anyone have thoughts on prioritization or timing, or do you have recommendations in terms of chunking these out into pieces? I almost see the ADA piece as being kind of a lens through which we look at some of the other things, that it's not necessarily standalone, but it should be sort of a primary consideration when we look at parking or we look at landscaping or anything that we're doing, that we make sure we're not inadvertently making our community less accessible for people who need it.
Right, and I think that's just kind of what I'm suggesting is maybe it's a good time just to look and make sure that we're on board with all the current ADA regulations and maybe report back if there's deficiencies, what we need to do, and if there's not, then just let you know that we're in good place.
Is there a township board or commission whose primary responsibility it is to look at things like that from the perspective of somebody who might need or want accommodations to make it a more friendly built environment, or is that us? Or
Do you mean on a parcel by parcel basis, or do you mean?
like how we have like a transportation group
Oh, okay.
that looks at like sort of walkability or something like that? Is there a like body and, okay.
Not necessarily, no, not to my knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, Commissioner Skills?
I recommend that we prioritize these, and this will allow you to give a report out during the board and commissions meeting that's upcoming.
Coming up in a couple weeks,
This is what our plan is
Yeah.
for the coming year.
Okay. Do you have a suggestion for priorities? Would you like to take a stab at that?
I don't have a suggestion.
Okay.
I like the way it's listed right here. But I'm open to any suggestions, just so that we have something to report.
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. It'll help us to know when we have spots on our agendas that we were looking to fill, kind of help you know what to bring to us first.
Sure.
I have a question, Mr. Shorkey. So is there anything, so I would love to do everything on this list, and I think we all would like to do lots of things, but is there too much on this list for staff to work on at the
No.
moment?
No. No, like I've noted, we're already working on off-street parking.
Right.
I'm researching ADA access. I'll come back in a month with a report, how are we doing? That's not a huge deal. Landscaping, if that turns into a real, true landscape ordinance above and beyond, parking lot perimeters, that's a pretty decent undertaking. I've written those for other communities. That could be, but certainly nothing's going to take all year. If I take all year to do that, you should question. Consequently, I have no problem saying that by the middle of the year, third quarter of the year, we could be talking about missing middle or Malpeca. Based on conversation, I think I would suggest ordering them therefore 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, and putting the missing middle housing regulations toward the bottom. That could be an interesting discussion to bring up, but I'd be surprised if after all of this, we actually got to a nuts and bolts. Like that's gonna get into some heavier conversations than how many trees do you want?
So many.
I like that ordering, and if that works for you, I think you have a better sense of how long it's going to take to kind of bring forward the things that need to be developed. Is everybody comfortable with that? And do we need to vote on it to make this our priority or our work plan? Or
Could I throw a late wrench in the works?
maybe, well, you can throw it. I'm not sure if we're going to let it get, if it's going to
In
stick.
in the master plan, we talked about small area studies. And so I don't want that to drop off our radar.
It has not. That's why that's why we included the Malpeca study, and that's why I'm suggesting let's put that forth, since 2, 3, and 4 are all kind of overlapping a little bit. I can work on all 3 of those at the same time. The what we're picturing, we've talked about this a little bit. What we're picturing like right now is like a high level 6 to 10 page report on what's the mall look like now, what's around it, what's it capable, what's the future land use, et cetera. And then if somebody shows interest, hey, we've got a marketing piece or a PR piece to show you. Now we can talk about the big dog and pony shows, the charrettes, the things like that. Like, what do you really want to see here? We've learned from some past experiences, and we think maybe that's the way to go on that. But certainly, however, the Planning Commission wants to go with it at that time, we can discuss that.
Thank you.
Does that satisfy you?
Yep.
Okay, great. So,
Then I'll make a motion.
Thank you.
That we prioritize our 5 issues for our 2024 work plan, beginning with off-street parking ordinance. ADA access is number 2. Landscape ordinance update is number 3. Malpeca study is number 4. And missing middle housing regulations as our 5th priority.
I'll second
moved
that.
by Commissioner Scales, second by Commissioner Brooks. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
I think this one,
This one requires a roll call?
do we? Well, there's no, because
No, because we don't have a resolution. So, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much, everybody, for a good discussion.
Thank you. Okay.
All right.
Now, told you this was going to come up. We talked about this a little bit. In evaluating the zoning ordinance, we've discovered a lot of text in the Village of Namoka district language that needs to be corrected. So we went ahead and we did an analysis of what's actually out there. You got it in your packet. Most of the area out there is single-family residential in use. You've got multifamily out there. You've got a mix of stuff. You've got one piece that's owned by Michigan State University, and you got one office that's in the district as well. I'm going to come down here and just go to this map here. This shows current land uses by category inside the district, and some of the highlights are shown here. This is Shaw Place condos, Swan Cove condos, Lake Drive apartments. This is the Clarkson Eye Care, Meridian Apartments. There's a couple assisted living facilities here. These stars are duplex units. So I'll tell you, one early thought was, well, let's just rezone it to RB. Well, that doesn't work because RB doesn't allow duplexes. That's what you got out there right now. Now, let me zoom back up here. We see 4 potential ways this can go, and we don't have any preference. This is from low to high. You can simply amend the RN district, fix the incorrect references, eliminate the subjective language. And I put in here what that looks like. I can zoom in on this if you want, but, you know, just, you see the links that need to be fixed, and then this subjective language, like special land uses as decided by the planning director or the planning commission, that's not how that works.
It used to.
Fixing, just doing a quick and easy text amendment fixes the problem. If we're doing this anyway, the RN district land uses, they're not listed in their own right. They're referred from other sections. We could go a little bit deeper into the review of the district language, maybe update land uses, make this district unique and distinct like it was intended to be. I don't know exactly what that looks like yet, but if you start looking at land uses, you start looking at dimensional standards, what is it about Village of Namoka that makes it unique from the rest of the township? Why is it its own zoning district? We could go into that. That's still a text change. It's a little bit more analysis than just simply making some changes to some references. The third option that we see is, and we've done this with a couple zoning districts in the past couple of years, you could look at eliminating the Village of Namoka district. That's the other side. Maybe you look at this and you say, well, we don't think this is any unique compared to the rest of the township. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I haven't done that research. But the RN zone properties could be administratively rezoned appropriately. That would require a text amendment deleting section 86-377 and rezoning all of the affected parcels. And I think I put in here, that would be 149 different parcels. Now, most of them would be a single-family residential, an RX probably, you know, because to allow the duplex development. There's enough duplexes in there. Like I said, you can't just say RB. If that's chosen, we'd start engaging in a more robust analysis of the district. We'd come up with some recommended zoning categories for each parcel. And it's not in here, but of course, we'd have some public meetings to discuss this before we just administratively rezoned 147 properties. Wouldn't go into this blind. And then if you really want to, we've got a Lake Lansing overlay district. This is in accordance with the master plan. We could look at the whole Lake Lansing overlay district, of which this falls into, and do a real big Lake Lansing analysis. I am happy to go in whatever direction the planning commission wants to go in.
The third option that you discussed, are you talking about making each parcel its own zone?
Well, what I would say is all of the orange could be a multifamily designation. All of the yellow could be the same designation. I'm guessing off the top of my head, RX, which would not make the duplexes non-conforming immediately. So it's not like, it wouldn't, I don't think it would look like a patchwork. You know, obviously this piece would be office. We'd probably rezone that anyway. And then not incidentally, this piece here too, which just got rezoned, I'll talk about that when we get to board report. And then there's some vacant properties in here too that are ripe for development. Well, some of them more than others. But yes, we would have to rezone the properties. Yeah.
The vacant properties, the ones that are in white.
If they're in white, they're outside of the district.
Oh, where's the vacant?
I'm sorry?
Where are the vacant properties?
Oh, they're in this purple color.
Oh, okay.
I call that developable open space.
Got it.
This one here is not a very good one. It's a very low parcel, but, and then this one up here has a for sale sign in front of it. It's different, you know, different different levels of developability.
And most of those are zoned for,
Well, they're RN zoning, so single-family or duplex, and then a multifamily by special use permit.
So currently, anything, sorry,
Lost it completely. Go ahead.
anything in here in this village could currently be developed as multifamily, up to multifamily with special use permit.
That is correct. It currently says all use, permitted by right is all use, well, I say single family, but all use is permitted by right in the RB district, which means mostly single family residential in this case. And then 2-family dwellings are allowed by right as well. Then it says use is permitted by special use are, I'm looking. All use is permitted in all use is permitted in subsection 86-376 is basically where you get to with that. 376, and that is the multifamily residential stuff. So then, that's why I end up saying, see, it's a complicated ordinance to use. It doesn't specify those land uses. It makes references back to different sections. That's those references that are broken.
Are there any, sorry, did I interrupt you?
Oh, no, go ahead. Finish your question, and then we'll go to Commissioner McConnell next.
Are there any, like around the Lake Lansing area, are there any multifamily or higher density zoned areas like this? Or is this the only one?
So when you start looking around the lake,
That are pretty dense.
this is your area we're talking about right here. Then here's Lake Lansing Park South, that's a township park. When you get up on the north end here, you've got these attached single-family units. The issue we run into is that these lots are very tiny,
Yeah.
and we get a lot of variances out of the Lake Lansing area. And then as you go around, you still have tiny lots, but as far as multifamily developments, you've got an apartment complex. Let's see. Actually, I think that's, what's in here, you got an apartment complex in somewhere, and I know it is because, yeah, right here. So it's not right on the lake.
And then right across the road there as well, is that one? Across Marsh.
Oh, yeah, but that's on the other, that's on the west side of Marsh. That's out of
Okay.
the district.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
Commissioner McConnell, you had a question?
Yeah, more on process, really.
Sure.
Option number one that you presented is sort of a clerical, set of clerical corrections.
Correct.
And I presume that would require a public hearing?
Oh, yeah, the same as any text amendment. But it wouldn't require notifying anybody because we're not doing anything to anybody's property. We're simply making text corrections.
Okay. On some of the subsequent options, there was further analysis that was going to be done in order to support considering a broader
Correct.
change. And then at some point down the line, then public meetings would be held.
3 and 4 would certainly involve that. 2, we probably, so let me back up, process question. In any case, we would have a public hearing, yes. In option 2, you're still doing a text change. The analysis is this. If the dimensional standards right now are just, here's what the dimensional standards are in reference back, yeah, see, the minimum design standards our single-family detached structures meets the dimensional requirements of the RB district. This would look and see, is that appropriate? Should they be a little bit less stringent? Should they be somewhat different, smaller setbacks, things like that? Smaller lot size, something, I guess what we're saying is, if we're gonna make a text change anyway, is the text need to be modified to make the Village of Namoka district from any other RB development in the township? And I don't know that that's yes, and I don't know that that's no. If you don't want to do that, I'm only suggesting that's an option.
Commissioner Bloomer?
This may sound like a silly question, but why is this an issue? Why has it come up other than to clarify the map? Has there been a controversy, or does somebody want to develop something that the neighbors object to? Why has this come up?
This came up simply because we noticed the text corrections that need to be made.
Okay.
It's been in conversation, if we're gonna do this anyway, there are options. So no, we don't have anybody, there's no controversial issue out there, bubbling up out there.
It just occurs to me that if we do a dramatic overhaul of the zoning of the entire district, we will create issues.
That is potential. But it's my job to occasionally bring things to you for discussion, and that's all this is.
And I guess the way I see it from your explanation last time, and it's sinking in a little bit more now, is sort of why continue to perpetuate something that might be a relic of times past that isn't really germane to now? Like, is there a need to have a Village of Namoka that has a standalone district that is separate from everything else in the township? And what I don't want to do is sort of create a lot of work and solve a problem, create a problem that needs fixing, but at the same time, otherwise we're sort of kicking the can down the road for others. It sounds like maybe if we don't do anything and they start scratching their heads 10, 15 years from now, like, why do we still have this? And it was updated in 2024, and why didn't they change? So do you know just offhand how many properties within this area are owner occupied versus owned by no?
I don't have that information.
I mean, because it looks like with condos and apartments that it might have fewer people who personally would come out and be affected. What I don't want to do is scare somebody into thinking that we're doing something that isn't the intent of what we're doing.
And I don't want to do something inadvertent, we're here to help, you know what I mean? I don't want to do that either.
Commissioner Scales?
Yes. I was trying to break down the workload and the anticipated outcomes of the work performed. And I look at 2 and 3 involving an analysis of each property. I look at number 4 as just saying, while we're here, let's just look at the whole kit and kabang.
Yeah, 4 would take a lot of
Would be
time.
a lot.
And number 1, in the olden days, we would be taking some white out and making a change. And thinking about what it is that we want to accomplish here. And listening to our chairperson's fears that I wholeheartedly endorse of upsetting the community.
Okay.
I would be fearful in doing 2, 3, and 4. But if I were to clean the whole thing up, 4 is what I would do, but I wouldn't do 4 this year.
Okay,
I would say make 4 our
Work plan.
1, 2, or 3 priority for next year,
okay,
and do something this year, like number 1, that cleans up the obvious mess.
That makes sense to me. It is a master plan goal to, in the next 5 years, look at the Lake Lansing overlay district. That's why we went ahead and brought it to you as an option right now. But nothing says we have to do it right now at this moment. You're right.
And I appreciate the way you laid it out. This is very well presented.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No. Unless others have an opinion, okay.
Oh, I was going to rise in support of Commissioner Scales' recommendation.
Okay.
Excellent. I was gonna say, unless others have other opinions, that seems like an
Also-
approach that works.
Just one little piece.
Yes.
When we do go to capture the whole thing, I think looking at the Lake Lansing area as a whole is going to be better. And in my personal view, the sooner the engagement happens, the better.
Fair enough. Okay.
Village of Nomoka just got all tore up for all that drain work and assessments, right?
I believe you.
Yeah.
They did have some work out there, yeah. I can't
Every
speak
street
for it.
torn up and new sewers. Yeah.
Okay.
Is this something that we need to, again, sort of give you a vote to give you direction, or is our just sort of verbal direction give you what you need to?
Feel like the conversation has given me direction. I will just bring this text change. It'll look a lot like this.
So I thought you've done most of that work already.
Right.
It's just formalizing it.
If we're gonna do this, maybe if it's okay with you, instead of saying all uses by right in the RB district and referring back, we might list the uses specifically. That way you can take a look and see, maybe in that perspective, maybe this shouldn't go in the Village of Nomoka district. So let me bring this back one more time, and if you're okay with what I present, we can schedule a public hearing on a text change.
Excellent.
Okay.
I'm supportive of what you've proposed in the second part of, like, put it right there so people don't have to go chasing around to find it somewhere else, because that gets confusing.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, awesome, thanks.
Then we talked about that, and
Yep,
here
so
we
we
are.
are at reports and announcements, Township Board update.
Sure. Let me get organized here, I apologize.
Oh, yeah, because I took your agenda, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Let's see, that's coming up. So the township rezoned 5681 Shaw Street from professional office. You recommended to rezone it to RC multifamily residential. They rezoned it to RN Village of Nomoka. So they will be coming in for a special use permit for their 4-unit residential development. The board approved the special use permit for the drive-through at 2731 Grand River. It denied the special use permit for the climate-controlled storage facility at 1614, objecting to the size of the building and the proximity to single-family residential. And then, yeah, that's everything I have.
Okay.
I don't think I should talk about.
No, please elaborate.
I want to start talking about the agenda that hasn't come out.
Okay. Go ahead, Commissioner Curtis.
Did the township, or do we know the name of this drive-through restaurant yet, or no?
No, they haven't come in for site plan approval yet.
It says coffee shop on here now. Now it's being called a coffee shop on your update. I noticed.
Oh, if it is, then that is an accident.
Okay.
No.
Oh, no, that's
It's a new
different.
coffee shop.
Yeah, it is.
Associations, we do have a new coffee shop.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's a different one
On
then. I'm
Hamilton
sorry.
Road. That
Oh,
is-
excellent, okay.
Yeah, that's not the same thing.
Got it. All right, sorry, I did not mean to confuse.
Hamilton?
Okay, nothing else then? We're at liaison reports. Does anybody have a liaison report to share?
I'm sorry, what did you ask?
Liaison reports?
Oh. Yeah, so we had a CIA meeting, and we basically, Mr. Shorkey might be able to help me remember all the details, but from this, but we were presented with a list of work that's going to happen for the year. And one of the priorities is putting together some like marketing materials, and I can't remember all of it, but they approved the plan, and so they have a work that's going to happen for the year that's been approved.
Thank you.
Sorry, that wasn't very informative.
I'm glad you had a meeting.
been
though. That's
several
good.
weeks. It's been several
We're just
weeks.
happy to know that you're meeting.
And I had vacation in between.
Any other updates from Commissioner Paul?
The Environmental Commission, and welcomed our new board liaison, Trezise. Trustee Trezise, I just love saying Trustee Trezise. Good one. And I wanted to put in the March 26th joint boards and commissions meeting. 6 p.m. in this room. It's one of my favorite events of the year in the township. So I said in the past, I set up a table with various boards and commissions here with the board up here. Each chair gets to bring up for a while and to take questions if there are some. It's a great way to hear about it. See who's who and hear about what's going on.
And there's free food.
Sometimes you have to do a little bit of much.
Thank you for mentioning. I've only been able to attend one of those, and then I think there was COVID or scheduling conflicts since my term's been on the planning commission, but it's really interesting, both for us and for the public, just to sort of see what's happening in other places, so.
What is that date again?
March 26th.
Yeah.
Should have received an email about it, I think, asking for an RSVP, so if you have an RSVP. If you plan to go, sometimes it's good for us to kind of connect and try to sit together if we can, so if you'd let.
March 26th.
Let Mr. Shorkey know if you plan to come, I guess, and we can, or let me know if you want to. You don't have to bother him with it, but let me know if you're coming, and then I can kind of make sure to recognize all of our members who are here if I'm doing an update.
Fortunately, we just passed your script, so it's easy to report on what we plan to do, right? We just adopted a plan.
Thank you. I appreciate that. You've done this before, huh? You know what's gonna.
Both sides of the table.
Yeah. Any other liaison reports?
The Planning Commission appears to be a study in frustration.
Planning
They are
Commission.
very, very frustrated with the developers who are not coming through, and
Planning or?
The plan.
Did I say Planning Commission? I'm sorry. That's a study in
We're not
frustration.
frustrated. We're happy.
More like the Downtown Development Authority.
Okay, got it.
We're studying frustration too, don't get me wrong. No, the Downtown Development Authority is very clearly frustrated with the developers in the area. They're hesitating on every project. And financing is fundamentally based on development. And they're in serious jeopardy of losing some of their financing if they don't get things started. So they're very, very frustrated about that. And they didn't come up with any answers, but they did express frustration. And the other big issue that is continuously revolving through there is the senior center. They just don't know it. Haven't even decided completely yet whether they're going to take over and recondition an existing building or start from scratch and build something. But again, there's a $6 million state grant that's in jeopardy if they don't get things moving quickly. So, that's it.
Got it. Those are important things. Anything else? Any other updates? Questions? Okay. Project updates, anything?
You have a report in front of you. Did spend more time on it. We had a conversation at our last meeting and incorporated all those updates. I started adding stuff that I knew about that wasn't necessarily planning commission stuff, but development nonetheless, which is why under new applications, you see Planet Fitness is under building review for expansion of their business in the mall. A new coffee shop on Hamilton Road's under building review. Tante Cuisine, which I know of as a food truck that was at Pride, as a matter of fact. Anyway, and then The Shaw Street rezoning was approved, so I'm waiting for a special use permit for that.
Great. That's all exciting.
Isn't Tante supposed to be done soon?
Apparently, the owner got hurt and it delayed his ability to fully develop it.
Soon. It's really good. I'm looking forward to it coming.
Me too.
Commissioner Scales?
I saw something in the paper yesterday that said Meridian Charter Township had sought more than 7.5 million for affordable housing and mixed-use development that would bring a 26,000 square foot commercial and residential center to a development at Hamilton and Okemos Roads. The development will have 206 housing units, with about half of those being set aside for area median income-based housing for the first 5 years. And the bill included $1,666,279 for the work. And it said that this is in a current bill that is moving towards passage. So it sounds like our development may get some money.
So I guess that happened while I was out of state. Can you send that article to me?
I can. I can send it to you right now.
It came out last week.
This was reported in the paper by a congressional politician.
Downtown, when they didn't know about the
They
downtown.
didn't discuss that.
Cool. Any other questions on the project report?
I'm not sure that's part of downtown. That might be outside the perimeter.
We are at our second opportunity for public remarks. There are still no members of the public wishing to comment. Any additional commissioner comments that have not been shared?
I have a comment.
Go for it.
It's really not about planning or zoning, but it's more about our community. I just, as a public servant, just wanted to talk or at least denounce what took place a month ago at the Nokomis Cultural Heritage Center. That was an unfortunate incident that took place with the spray painting and defacing of our center that's right outside of this building. You know, as a planning commissioner, I want to go on record as denouncing it and stating that that is not what our township is about. We are a welcoming township, and we should not stand for such hateful acts. So I just wanted to go on record and say that.
Thank you. Appreciate you sharing that. Anyone else have any other comments? Okay, I guess I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you, Commissioner Scales. Second,
Second.
Commissioner
I move to
Bloomer.
adjourn.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And meeting is adjourned at 7:17.